leads a global supply chain strategy in one of the world's fastest-moving industries. For the first time at the SAPEX conference and part of Demand-Driven World, please welcome Emmanuel Cohen.
Good afternoon. Okay. So thank you for welcoming me to this major event. I'm glad to be here with you, and today we'll talk about a startup that is scaling up its business and is facing the need of transforming its supply chain to gain agility. And so I will explain you why I choose DDMRP as the foundation of this transformation, and we'll go through the implementation process and how we approached it, and the first result and lessons learned. So let's start. So first, who doesn't know Huda Beauty? Yeah, very few people. So this is Huda Katan. This is the founder of the company. And before creating this company, Huda Beauty was first a blog. And so she was one of the most popular blogger at that time on the makeup product. And so she built her community and decided one day to create her own product, and she launched this brand. And this brand was launched on social media, and today Huda Beauty is the most popular beauty brand on social media with 67 million of followers. So this is huge, and this is very specific to this business with a marketing that is mostly made on the social media, and this has impact on the demand, you will see later. So this is a typical gondola that you can find at our retailers, all the range of makeup products. So today, Huda Beauty is 250 employees. We have 3 offices. Global HQ is in Dubai, together with a regional HQ for Miasat region, and we also operate North America from New York, and the European region from London. We have 4 distribution centers, and we sell in 97 countries through the wholesale channel, but also with our e-commerce website. So what are the challenges that I faced when I joined Huda Beauty 2 years ago? The first one, I talk about being a social media brand. Means that we have those viral effects. So I show you an example of our most popular franchise, Easy Bake. So it's a loose powder that we launched in 2018, and for the first 4 years, it was quite stable in terms of demand. You see some peaks at the end of the year, a traditional moment that we promote a lot the brand. And then one day, in 2022, there is a TikToker that made a video that went viral, and then the virality increased more and more. And so you see this huge growth that we had. So those are the sell-out, so really end-user sales that grow by 20%, by 20 times in 4 years. So this is huge. And you see, now with the zoom in on the last years, you see how every spike can be huge. And so we multiply by 2 a demand that is really, really high. And so today we sell 500,000 pieces of Easy Bake every month. So the volumes are very important, and any single unexpected movement on the demand has a huge impact. It's also a market that is highly innovative. So this is the example of the launches of last year. Every month, a new launch. And so it represents almost half of our sales. So this is huge for something that you never know how it will perform. It's always a bet. Also, something interesting is that as it's highly innovative, like we stop product, we launch new one, and so the average life cycle is less than 3 years. So we have this demand that is going up, and then after some time, declining. And so we really need to readapt our stock of our inventory level as the demand change. And last thing is that half of the SKU that we manage, they are in end of life. It means that First, it's a lot to manage, but we cannot spend the same time and the same focus on this type of SKU compared to the newness, which are the ones that require the most effort. So we really needed to find a way to focus on the right things. So result of this complex demand is that the forecast was not good. So you see 22 and 23 forecast accuracy between 50–60%. And so all the supply chain was relying on this forecast that was really inaccurate. Now, if we talk about the production, we don't have our own facilities, so we outsource everything. We design the components, so what we call component would be the primary packaging, secondary packaging, label, that we make. We have a supplier that would produce them. We transport them to co-manufacturer. The co-manufacturer, they make the formula and then fill and assemble the finished good. They don't keep stock, so they just receive the component that would be used on the production. And when the finished goods are ready, they just want to invoice and push the stock. And so in total, we used to have lead time. The shortest was 4 months, and very few products were with this short lead time. Usually it was more 6 to 8 months end-to-end. Now if we look at the distribution model, I told you we have to push the stock, and as we were working with the B2B and B2C from 2 different business units, they all had their own forecast, they all wanted their own stock. So even if they were in the same warehouses, everyone wanted his own stock. So we were always dividing the stock into 8, depending on their own forecast, but with let's say, a global stock target that was defined SKU by SKU. And the contract manufacturer usually asks us to give this split 2 months before the goods readiness. So it means that we have to decide very early how we are going to differentiate the location of the stock. And so it means that we make decisions, and sometimes 2 months after. So if you add the longest lead time, 2 months, so 4 months in total, everything can change. And so it happened that we had some stock in transit, and where we knew it was not needed anymore at this area, and we were already planning to transfer it to another DC. And then if we talk about planning itself, so we were using Excel, of course, and it was a simple planning. We were summing up all the forecasts, summing up all the stock. We were using this global target. Transit time, we were taking the longest one. And so end-to-end, we were planning on around 8 to 10 months total lead time. So imagine this wrong forecast, this very long lead time. And then also, if you look at the S&OP process, the moment we have the sales, let's say, imagine we are in June, we have the actuals, and so we see the demand is increasing on a product. But this would be taken into account only in July during the demand cycle. And so they get June actual, they refresh the forecast, then they would, like we have all this approval level, region, global. And then only in August, we start using this forecast in our DRP, so planning the finished goods. So just imagine that we take 2 months to react. 2 months also to calculate which the transfer is needed between the warehouses. So end-to-end is very, very long, and we were never fast enough to react to the demand. And if I had on top of this the huge growth that we faced, so in 4 years, we multiplied by 4 the sales. And so we really needed to scale up the business and add more automation. So consequence of all those challenges, the service level was really bad. So even before 2023, it was reaching 78%. It was quite stable. But the moment the growth really started, then impossible to react on time. Service level go down to 66%. And on the other hand, we had 50% of the SKU in stock excess. So really not balanced. And so conclusion, what we had to do is to keep rebalancing stock between the different DCs. So if you realize that almost 10% of the movement of finished good was stock rebalancing. And as we didn't have good visibility, it was decided very late, and so we were doing a lot of air freight. So it was costing a lot, and I don't even talk about the CO2 emission. I wanted to add this metrics, but we just started to calculate this year. But you can imagine the impact. And I add also the lack of visibility, so we didn't know the priorities of freight. We didn't know when we had our DCs saturated, which order was the most important to receive. So we needed to change the supply chain to bring more agility. And so when I joined Huda Beauty, Huda asked me to build an agile supply chain that would support this business scale-up. And so I already knew DDMRP. In my previous company, I already implemented it at Remova. The business was the spare part and the repair, so very different. But still, I know what would be the benefit. And I needed a system that was able to adapt much faster to the demand, that didn't rely on a forecast that is inaccurate, and that enhance also the execution, so to give the visibility to everyone on what was the priority. And also something simple, and something I really like about DDMRP is the simplicity to implement, to read, and the fact that it's very visual. But it's not only DDMRP by itself. It goes with bigger changes. So on SNOP, we changed the methodology, but we also implemented a new tool. We have also worked on a new forecasting tool. On the manufacturing side, we worked on reducing the lead time. So the first thing is resourcing the component supplier to be closer to the co-manufacturer. We work on forecast agreements. So instead of having very long lead time that include the raw material procurement that takes months for our CM, they purchase based on our forecast, and then we can reduce the PO lead time to the short raw material, depending on short material lead time, which make the differentiation between the different shades. And last thing, we agreed with them that they would keep stock of components. The last part is about logistics, because we also change the flow between the regional stock and the e-commerce stock, and the part of the change also involve a global hub. So this is the target model that we worked on. So we decided to implement buffers at our CM. So we defined which were the components where it really made sense. And we changed also the way we were pulling stock from the region to the e-commerce. On the global hub side, we are not yet there. This is for next year project. So today we are here. But by doing this, we already decoupled the lead time, and so it reduced a lot the variability. And you will see later the improvement. Now, this is the project timeline. We started last year with the training. I will talk about the training in detail later. And we selected the B2I's tool to be our partner on this change. It took us some time to finalize the implementation because we were a small team. We didn't have dedicated people on this project. So we had to do it at the same time as managing the hypergrowth. But we are live since January, and we did it step by step. We focused first on the distribution, and then the planning, the production, from the finished good planning, and then the component planning. So for the training, I think it's really the key moment of the project is making sure that everyone in the company is involved and understand what would be the changes. So we did two things. The first is we brought the best DDMRP instructor in Dubai, Alan and Laurent. And in this session, we did the DDBrix first, and we invited the top management and the different stakeholders, not only the planners, so everyone could understand what would be the changes and the impact, and they could also understand the new vocabulary. Then we trained all the planners, and they did the DDP training. Then we implemented, and you can see the first result. It's not very obvious. So here is the stock on hand alert on the e-commerce warehouses. What we see is during 5 months since the project started, we have decreased a lot the number of SKU that are in the red zone. What it means is that we improved the stock availability, and on e-commerce, improving the stock availability is, I will not say increasing the sales, but avoiding loss of sales. But the other important thing is that first, we have the full visibility across the e-commerce team. We have much less, we accelerated the decision time to transfer the stock between the B2B and the B2C because we have implemented clear rules that are transparent for everyone, depending on the different colors that we get from the DDMRP methodology. And so we don't spend weeks of negotiating, can I get your stock or not? Like the rules are clear, and the planners are independent on the decision. Then if we talk about how we split the stock between the different regions, so we are now using the priority share, where we make sure that every buffer gets the same level when we distribute the stock. So the system is very easy, and from, we gain a lot of productivity because each planner were updating many files in order to get this split that anyway was not good. And so this has an impact, immediate impact, actually. So what we see is a decrease by 41% of the SKU whose net flow is below top of red. So it means that we have much less urgent orders, and again, increase of productivity. Now we talk about the transfer. Yes, so this is an execution alert. So it shows how we transfer goods from the CM to the different DCs. And so what we see is we have much less order line. Now the logistic team has a much better visibility on the priorities, and it brings a lot of serenity in my team. If we talk about transfer between DCs, we have also the view of where we can source the new stock from the stock to be transferred to the DCs that are missing some quantities. About the freight priorities, so we have interfaced the system with our TMS. So the logistic team is independent, can autonomously look at which transfer is the most urgent, and depending on the status, knows exactly where to action. We also give visibility to the region, so they can, to warehouse per warehouse, they know what are the inbound that is the most urgent. And here again, they can focus on what matters most. So you see our finished good planning with a very long formula, very complex, and completely inaccurate. So now we get you have the from to. This is a B2Y screen where you know exactly what are the region that needs the stock, and it's not only cumulative. Component planning was even worse because each planner had his own Excel file, so now everyone works the same, and so it's much easier to control. This is the service level. So now we finally reach our target of 90%. So of course, it's not only the DDMRP implementation, it's all the action plan all together that bring this result. And in terms of stock rebalancing, we have also decreased a lot. So now we expect this year to be at 3.5%, but it's a huge cost saving. Now there are some lessons learned. So the first thing is about the master data. So it has always been a problem, even in my first project. This is the most complex thing, specifically when you start from nothing. So you have to define your master data structure, and the accuracy, and make sure that you have the process to maintain this over the time. And so I would suggest if you have to start, make sure that this is prepared before you start implementing. Then the second is to focus on the team. So for me, if I had to do something differently, I would have a dedicated team on this project. It would be much faster. And then the second thing is that you have to bring expertise. And so when I started the project, I was the only, I would say, expert. And I was not available all the time to help my team on this project. But when I brought a second expert, senior expert on DDMRP, then the project went much faster. And being too knowing and challenging ourselves on the model was also an asset. The last one is the change management. I think it's the most difficult thing. Some people are convinced immediately, some are not. And so it's very important that we train them again and again. And not only the supply chain team, but really all the stakeholders and the top management. We had to do a lot of cross-functional workshops also to define the new processes and the new way of deciding, taking decisions. But this has been really, I think, a very good thing to make the change faster. And now we are working on reports to ease the visualization, because, of course, if you use the tool, is quite, I would say, complex for the people that are not from the supply chain team. But now we want to make it accessible to the top management. So this is our next challenge. Yep, that's it.
Can I know how you deal with rationalization in that sector? Because we are based in Mauritius and we are also distributing, I think, like a competitive like competition for you maybe. But there are lots of challenges in terms of the new launches and the discontinuation, and we have lots of items in that particular sector. So is there like a fight between marketing, brand, and supply chain in terms of knowing what SKUs to be commercialized, and in terms of the excess stock we have on the ones that will be discontinued?
Alors, rationalization. So what we do first is that we don't get rid of the forecast. So we still need forecast, and especially for newness, the pipe that we have to build to fill the stock, let's say the network, it's like a mathematic, depending on the number of doors, the number of stores. So this is not something that we do, like we have to calculate and input. So the first drop will be always be pushed. But then we try not to push too much at the beginning so we can react faster and so readapt where the stock is needed. And this is where we really want this global hub, because this will allow us to decide at the last moment where to put the stock. Then about discontinuation, so it's very important that this is anticipated. So we decide 9 months before what are the products that we will phase out. And so during this phase-out period, we still reorder. So reorders are allowed, but we are very careful on what we reorder and how. And so during this period that today we still do rebalancing. What we expect is with the global hub not to rebalance anymore. Because
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I was hoping at the end you'll say, look underneath your seat and you'll find a sample to give to our wives. I'm joking. I wanted to ask you, in terms of your flow map, and you said the second phase of the project of having a centralized DC is still coming. Initially in my mind, that was what I thought could solve some of your inventory problem of having a centralized DC before you move it to the 4 DCs. Is there any reason why it wasn't done earlier on and delayed to the second phase?
Yes, the major reason is not done yet is because it has financial impact. Because we did the study, and this global hub, the ideal location would be France, because most of our suppliers are in Europe, mainly Italy and France. And the European hub is located in France next to our major European client. Okay? So location was France. But then when you start to have this global hub in France, it has tax implication. So I mean that in order to move forward and verify on the financial aspect that it was still beneficial and what would be the impact on the bottom line, we needed to do further simulation. And so now we're just waiting to have the right resource to do this. But I mean, in terms of supply chain, this is obvious for everyone. Now it's just the financial aspect that we need to clarify and potentially also open the different options in terms of location. But what we really need is to make sure that the transportation to the European client is still by land, because this is the only constraint that we would put. But now we open the discussion to potential other location. That's finance.
Hello, my name is Caroline. In this wonderful experience that you described very clearly, what was the attitude of the other departments of the company who supported the project? What was the attitude of the CEO of the company? And what recommendation would you give to people who would like to go through such a wonderful experience?
So the first person I had to convince was my COO. So my COO was the former CFO, so strong in finance, IT legal, and he just took over the supply chain. So he didn't know about DDMRP. So the first thing I had to explain him the benefits. So he trusts me, but he still went to see his friends in a consulting firm and say, look, I have a new supply chain director, so she wants to implement DDMRP, what do you think? And so they confirmed that this was the right model. So first, I had one ally in the company. Then we launched this DDBrix, so people could understand. Then after, with the rest, I also invited, restart. Huda Beauty, we have two CEOs. Everyone knows Huda, but actually there are two co-CEOs. Her husband is in charge of the operation. So I invited Chris to the DDBrix, so he could understand what it was about. But I would say that Chris is not an expert, and he has always said, you are my expert, so I trust your choices. So he was really open on the solution we would bring, because he knew anyway that we had to transform everything. So he was trusting us. Then, if we look at the other function, sales, okay, why not? But we had to explain what would change between the region and the global team. So it was more about involving the region team in the design, because they were asking, oh, but how are we going to manage this? How are we going to manage that? And the overstock will be for e-com or B2B. If you manage all in the same pool, how we will do? So we just listed all the questions. We did workshop, and we worked together of how we would treat each of those questions. So they were really involved in the process. And then marketing, I would say they are open, as long as we deliver the goods and we are more agile. But e-commerce team belongs to marketing. So I would say it's more the e-commerce team that was wondering, okay, let's see. But then, very quickly, the thing is they were the first to be involved in this DDMRP, and they were the first to see the benefit. And so once we got them, after it was done. So now the challenge is to make sure that the planners are all adopting the solution, because we change everything, and so some of them, they are completely comfortable, and some others, they are still looking at their own Excel file because they need more time. And so now, this is where we have to focus our energy.